Welcome back to the neighborhood, and thanks for stopping by. It is time once again for us to talk about all of the games that we've been playing lately. We call this episode format the Neighborhood Watch. Welcome to the podcast where three longtime friends talk about video games from the average gamer's perspective. My name is Andrew Kimball.
I'm Dylan Wren.
And I'm Aubrey Summer.
And we are your friendly neighborhood gamers.
Before we dive in, I just want to ask that if you enjoy our podcast, if you enjoy our content, we would greatly appreciate it if you showed us your support by leaving a 5-star rating or review on your podcast app of choice if they allow it. Or if you're watching/listening to this on YouTube, a like, a comment, subscribing to the channel are all great free ways for you to show us your support over there as well. And it helps us way more on our end than you would think for the amount of effort it takes you, except that every single creator on YouTube is asking for the same thing. So you probably have an idea.
Some idea of how important it is.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
So yeah. Neighborhood Watch.
Yay.
So let's see. Like I said in the beginning, this is the episode format where we pull together all of the things that we're playing right now that either we may not stick with or we don't think that they're like big enough or enough of us are going to play or whatever that we're going to do a full deep dive on. Things like that. So this is just a fun smorgasbord of video game chat. Sometimes these episodes shift more into like news stories and things like, you know, the Switch 2 being announced. So it's kind of just our flexible episode format that we like to do where we can kind of just squeeze things in that may not fit anywhere else in our more structured episodes. So with that being said, I think we'll dive right into the games we've been playing. We actually have a pretty solid list between the three of us. So with that being the case, Aubrey, why don't you kick us off this week with it, you know, maybe being your sayonara episode for a while. You've been playing a couple games. Which one do you want to start with?
I'll start with the Do No Harm demo. So as part of my goal some of my gaming goals for this year that we
we
set at
did
the
make
beginning
those,
of the year.
didn't we?
Yeah, I've made no progress.
I have achieved my wingspan goal. I've now played 2 120 point plus games, so that's
Wow.
pretty exciting. I know. The last one, I did not think it was going to get there. So obviously I'm still playing wingspan, but one of my goals was to try and like play more AAA titles, and so I was looking on Steam thinking maybe if it's on like my PC it'll be easier to hop in, I can have something going on my second monitor, like all that goodness. And so I picked up Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and then Tavern Manager Simulator was on sale, and that's one that's been on my wish list for a minute because it's a game I enjoy, and I'll talk about that later. But then another thing that was recommended to me was the Do No Harm demo, which is very much more my speed. Before this, if I'd been on the last Neighborhood Watch, the only like new game I could have talked about playing was BioInk Redemption, which is pretty similar in concept, very different in execution than this. But Do No Harm is a Lovecraftian, like 18th century doctor simulator.
So leeches.
So-
Interesting.
Yeah. I haven't unlocked leeches yet. I don't know if that happens later in the game or if that's in the demo at all, but you actually balance the humors. So it's first person. they walk in, like, there's the backstory of, oh, you're going to this remote town where the last doctor disappeared, but they're going to pay you a lot of money to do it.
Do you go to Arkham or Innsmouth? Or
Um,
Or Yarnum.
it's always like one of
You're right,
those
one of those.
like
I want to say Innsmouth, but I've also been playing the Sinking City, so maybe I'm getting my wires crossed on that. But
Your tentacles
so
crossed.
yeah, so it's all in first person. They approach you, they've got something going on, and so you've got a little reference book to the side, like in most of these styles of games. And based on what they're complaining about, you have to either give them a dose of blood, phlegm, bile, or black bile.
you just like cough in their mouth. Like what are you? How are you giving them phlegm? Like
So they're like jars laid out in front of you, and you draw up like a potion to like balance that thing. So, like with all games, there's a progression. It gets more complicated. You can do multiple doses depending on what's going on. They'll have some sort of like boil or sore or something on them that like indicates how much you're supposed to dose them. And then depending on the condition and then information about them, like their allergies or their gender, it can also tell you like, yeah, blood's not going to be very effective because it's a woman, so you can't give her a dose of blood. What else can you do to try and like correct this? And then at the end of each day, so far something like weird has happened because
shocking.
Lovecraftian. So you either hallucinate or this woman shows up and she looks nothing like how she looks. I was able to heal her the first time she showed up. The second time she showed up, nothing worked and she just died. And I feel like that's something that is forced to happen, or maybe I couldn't find the solution for what was going on, because it doesn't really hold your hand a lot in terms of like addressing it. There's the guidebook, and it's like, if they're complaining of a headache, give them blood. If they're complaining of chills and sweats, give them black bile type thing. So she's so far the only patient I've lost. I've managed to address everybody else. It's not complicated or hard. There's no real timing or anything on it. It's just the faster you get through them, the more patients you can see, the more money you can make, the easier it is to stay stocked up on your humors. And then there's this like old lady that shows up that everybody else is like, oh, she's crazy, don't pay attention to her. And she rolls up and she's like, you've been seeing some weird shit, haven't you? And you go, yeah, I have. Somebody turned into a fly-headed person. She goes, yeah, well, drink some laudanum if you see that, and that'll make it better. And based on what I know about old medicine, that's probably not correct, but it's, that era, so you got to address it how you can. And so hardcore opium-based drugs is apparently how we're coping, but
that is the go-to. I forget what it is in the Sinking City. It might be laudanum as well, but they're just like, here, take this heroin.
Yeah. Like, it will make it better. And then there are these little like jars that can help you diagnose certain things or like give you clues as to what to do. And at that point, Tavern Manager Simulator was done downloading, and the loop was kind of like, nah. So I went ahead and like closed it and moved on to Tavern Manager Simulator. But it's been interesting. I'll be curious. Like there's enough of a hook to see like what's going to develop. Curious how they're going to continue to develop the like medicine of the era. But yeah, now I just have 3 bottles of laudanum next to me and a weird little like totem. It's the word I was struggling to find. A little totem guy that'll like yell at me and be like, hey, some weird shit's about to walk in the door. Get ready to drink some laudanum. And then like, a person with tentacles all behind him shows up, and you take a swig and you're back to normal and continue to practice not great medicine. So I could see bloodletting becoming a thing later in the game, or leeches or something along those lines, but so far it's just been mostly balancing the humors.
this is a demo. When does the full game come out?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like recommended to me, and so I pulled it up and played it.
But
But
it's a demo, not like early access. Okay.
yeah,
Did you play
And
it
so
at
is-
Steam Next Fest, or is it just like a standalone demo, or do you know?
I think it's just a standalone demo. I don't recall seeing anything about Next Fest or anything
Gotcha.
on the info about it. I know it was recommended to Dylan too because I mentioned it to him.
Yeah.
Playing
Anything that gets that Lovecraftian tag on Steam pretty much makes its way onto my like recommended page.
Yeah,
So
most simulation games make their way to mine. And
so
obviously, like medical horror.
it looks as though it has released. Release date March 6th. So it does still have a demo, I believe.
So it just came out last week at the time
Yeah.
of recording this.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or maybe it was a part of Steam Next Fest and that's where the demo was. I don't know. So did you get the sense that it had like an overarching story, or was it more of like a like Diner Dash sort of thing where it's more about like progressing through the levels and getting more complicated that way? Or is it like,
There's
because
a
you mentioned
mystery
like
of some sort. that
yeah,
you're trying
some
to
stuff
solve.
was starting to go on, and so like that becomes more of like a I'm trying to solve this or figure out what's going on situation.
I think it's mostly just for flavor. I think it's mostly just kind of like the shtick to kind of make them stand apart from other games of that genre because your character does keep a journal,
Mm-hmm.
but there's been no like overworld interaction. There's been no like there's nothing that happens outside of you being in your office treating people. Again, at least in the demo. Maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
something that is in the full game a little more. Versus every day they've added something new to how I
Mm-hmm.
approach treating the patients. So I don't think they're going for longevity in terms of like the game experience
Mm-hmm.
because they're not having like, you're going to do this for like a week in game and then we'll add a new mechanic type thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then reading the journal entries, he's incredibly blasé about the heavy hallucinating that he's doing. So he's not really like freaking out about what's going on. He doesn't seem very curious about what's happening. So I feel the story will happen to you,
Yeah.
not really be something that like you actively engage with or try and investigate or we'll
Mm-hmm.
have to choose to let somebody
Right.
die for some reason to investigate or something.
Right. But there was like a story piece to it outside of just this person walked in my door. I gave them some blood. They left. Yay.
Yeah, like there was some plot at the beginning like, oh, I got this letter inviting me to this weird town because they need a doctor and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a backwater middle of nowhere, but they're offering me a lot of money, so I guess I better do it. And then the people that come in, there are like recurring people that show up.
Mm-hmm.
Like the police officers at the beginning, and he's like, I'm going to keep an eye on you and make sure you're not screwing up so much and killing all of our residents. And
Probably
then the
wise.
crazy lady who gave you the totem.
Mm-hmm.
And and then that girl that showed up twice and either was fated to die or I failed to save her on like that second day.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's returned, and I think that was she was like the last patient of the day both times. Like it was a very deliberate thing
Mm-hmm.
versus just like there's not a lot of character design, so some of these people look kind of the same. Like there's some of that too, but there
Yeah.
are some like distinct characters that pop up every day and interact with you and talk to you. So,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as I've gotten in the demo, there's not a lot of indication of what you can do to influence the town or the environment beyond, you know, helping
Okay.
them with their sneezes.
And is this one that you can see yourself getting more into, or like picking up the full game at some point, or is it going to have to be like pretty steep discount for you to go back?
It'll probably have to be a pretty steep discount just with everything that's about to be going
Well,
on in my
yeah,
life.
fair.
I think even under normal circumstances, there would be other things I would reach for first
Hmm.
that I would get through. I enjoyed what I played so far, but I don't think it reinvented the wheel or had like a really gripping
Hmm.
opening or concept. Like there was nothing about it that was like, yeah, this is the thing. But if I get an email that like, oh yeah, the full version of it's like $5, I'm like, yeah, I'll pick it up and again have a show going on the second monitor or something. Like it's a nice way
Yeah,
to kill some time. But
cool.
there's not a speed hook. There's nothing that makes it really competitive or challenging. Like you have all the time in the world to research the symptoms. You have all the like beyond just attempting to make more money to re-up your
Hmm.
supplies, which even moving at a pretty measured pace, I'm accumulating plenty of money. So it's not really even that challenging.
Yeah, it's just like a chill game, but weird.
Mhm.
Yeah, the hook is probably
Basically.
the setting. Cool.
Mhm.
Very, very interesting. You definitely have not started that AAA push yet.
Yeah.
No, I have not I haven't started Assassin's Creed Odyssey either.
Well, speaking of non AAA games, Dylan, you finally played the phenomenon of last year in Balatro.
I did. I did.
Joe's been really
Um,
into it too.
yeah. Yeah, I finally made my decision and picked it up on Switch.
Oh,
Um,
even after
Okay.
it came
yeah.
to Game Pass.
No, right before.
No, not after.
You're welcome. You're welcome, everybody who got Balatro on Game Pass. I did that because I bought it somewhere else.
It feels like a good Switch game, though.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it is a lot of fun. The core concept is a like a deck builder roguelite poker game. So essentially each run is you draw up you have a small blind, a big blind, and then a boss blind. And you go through, I believe it's 8 rounds uh of small, big, boss, and then like after 8 you win that run. So you draw a hand of like maybe 8 or 9 cards or something like that, and then the you play your poker hand essentially.
Right.
And so obviously, like if you've got four of a kind, that's going to be a whole lot better than if you just put out a pair. And so
Mhm.
you get points based on the poker hand that you play. The twist is that you can, like, after each blind that you have, which is like an amount of points that you have to do in order to like pass it, and you get like 3 hands or 4 hands to do it. After each one of those, it goes to like an item shop where you can buy different things to like put modifiers on your run. So some of the big way that they do that is through jokers. And so some jokers are pretty simple where it's just kind of like, okay, this one just gives you a flat like +4 or like 4 times multiplier to however many points that you get, right? And so uh it helps you if you can't find that really big like flush straight hand or something like that. You can put a 3 of a kind out and get enough points to still be making progress towards beating the blinds. So
Mhm.
some of them are like that. Some of them get a little bit more complicated where it's like, okay, this one gives you a set amount of points for every face card that you have, or for every heart or spade that you have, or something like that. Um, and so that's like kind of the main catch or main like loop of the game is go in, play a blind, and then look at what it's giving you in order to sort of upgrade and get more points and build a cohesive build. It's weird to say like get a build because it's poker. But when it starts popping off, like it really kind of starts popping off. Like you can find a lot of synergies in the different jokers that you can pick up. In addition to that, they also have like tarot cards that you can get that like do these like sometimes they'll put like a bonus on the card, so it'll make the card, if you hold it in your hand, still give you like bonus points. Or if you some can get turned into like a glass card, which gives you a bonus, but it has like a 10% chance of breaking or something like that after each hand that you play. And so you're looking for ways to kind of upgrade and work towards getting enough points to beat like usually the small blinds, the big blinds, those ones aren't too hard, but the boss blinds are a lot of points, and they usually add an extra little twist to it. So sometimes that twist is like, for this set of hands, face cards don't count, or for this set of hands, clubs don't count, and so you have to like go in and try to beat them with like that added little complication there. So with all of that, it's a pretty fun, like quick little game. Like it does not take super long to get through a run. You can skip blinds, like the small and the big blinds for bonuses if you feel like it. So once you kind of build up like getting money each turn, you can start skipping them to get like, oh, here's a free Joker, or here's a free, pack of planet cards, which let me upgrade the level of the hands that I'm playing. So, you can play a pair, but if you get the pairs level to like level 7, it gives you just way more points, to the point where it's starting to be like a better hand than almost any other hand. So, so it's fun. It's pretty simple to like understand, as long as you understand like poker hands. And it's very snappy and quick, which I like. It's not something like, I like Hades. Hades also takes like, it's a commitment if you're trying to go for like a full run, versus Balatro, which seems like it's a lot quicker of a thing. Or maybe it's just one of those where the time feels like it's passing way faster than it is. But I've gotten a few like successful runs in it, but as you're doing it too, you're unlocking like new types of jokers, new types of cards, new types of decks. So like some decks give you extra discards or extra hands that you can play, or extra joker slots. So it gives you a lot of ways to customize, and a lot of just options for like, oh, okay, here's a different way that I can go about trying to make a build. So
it sounds like poker with a video game twist. It's like they
exactly.
they threw in a bunch of like video game kind of elements and ideas, but the core basic like hook, I guess, is that same one as poker essentially.
It sounds like what I wish casino games were.
Yeah, I was gonna say it. It definitely has
game.
that. It definitely has that like slot machine feel, where it's like, as you're scoring the points, especially if it's like starting to score a lot of points, it starts like blinking, and then the pitch keeps getting a little bit higher, and it keeps subtly speeding up as you get more and more points, and like there's a little fire that happens, and so it's like it makes all of those like
those
dopamine parts of your
receptors,
brain start going like, ooh, I like this. So that's pretty cool. You can customize your cards. You can put Witcher people on your cards. So
I saw that.
Andrew, hey,
Interesting.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. If you are into sort of like a card based rogue, like it reminds me a little bit of what's that? Slay the Spire, almost, in a way. Like not exactly like Slay the Spire, but it's got kind of like a similar feel to me, like Slay the Spire, Inscription. that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So if those games have clicked for you, this might be one to check out. And it's free on Game Pass, which is always like I was a little disappointed it wasn't like I have it on Switch, so it's fine. I was a little disappointed to see it wasn't on like you can't play it on mobile on Game Pass. Like you can't do the cloud gaming.
What about PC?
You can do it. I'm pretty sure on PC.
Okay.
But I haven't looked there a whole lot.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like mouse and keyboard on PC though. I think it is still
Controller?
controller. I could be wrong on that though.
I say I'm pretty sure it's mouse and
Maybe the
keyboard
Game
on
Pass
Steam.
version, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I think like sometimes on I don't
With
know
the
if it's
Game
on
Pass, it doesn't
PC
translate.
Game Pass or if it's on Game Pass and you can play it streaming on cloud gaming on PC. If
Oh.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't look at the PC Game Pass side of things a ton. So
Yeah, I watched Joe play through like a blind. Like I watched him do a boss fight and then reset and go through like a whole run, and it is incredibly numbers go up. Like
yeah. And it's got
It-
like super chill music too. Like
he had his headphones in, I couldn't hear the music, but yeah, that like the dopamine feedback of like stacking this and stacking that and building out, like your Joker hand that you've got going up there, and then you earn the money and buy this and open this card pack and you get this Zodiac and you can throw it up there, and then here we go with whatever, and like very much seemed like if they were to find a way to monetize it, they could make incredible money off this game with the way that it like
I'm pretty sure they have.
oh well, yes.
So-
Yeah, just its existence, the word of
Yeah.
mouth, the way that it's like progressed and gone and just selling, like
Mhm.
they've definitely gone about it the most honorable way and have hopefully been
Yeah.
handsomely rewarded. But
Yeah. Well, and I
the
think
game
it,
looks like a pretty solid dopamine feedback.
yeah, it was a very small team, if not just like a guy. I want to say I read somewhere that like he kind of just made it as like a little goof for some friends, and they were like, "This is really good. You should actually make this a game."
Build this
like,
out, like
yeah,
great concept. Let's go.
yeah.
It is on PC Game Pass, by the way.
Okay,
So
nice,
just
nice.
to put a nice little bow on that thought.
Yeah. So if you have Game Pass, the best deal in gaming, maybe check it out. So
Cool. Well, as for me, I replayed Lies of P, but that is one of those games that probably will come up again on a bigger episode later this year because the DLC is supposed to come out. So I feel like we'll probably talk about that. But I'll just say real quick that I had a lot of fun with it, and it reminded me of how good that game is and cemented for me that it is, in fact, like the best non-FromSoft Souls-like game.
yeah,
Okay.
did you have a vastly different experience playing through it again, or was it pretty much like the same? Were there bosses that you were like, "Oh, I remember being stuck on this guy. This is not as hard now."
Yeah, the whole thing was smoother. I beat it like 10 hours quicker than my first playthrough. But I was following, like I was doing a cohesive multivity, which is like strength build. And like it basically was the same exact feeling I had playing it the first time through, just less extreme. Like the bosses near the end are still a pretty big spike in difficulty. But the knowing kind of how the game plays and like what to expect and things like that, there were only a few bosses other than the end game ones that I had to try multiple times, and I was using the summons, most of the time when it would let me. But just having a cohesive build that like actually I knew what my strengths were, and like which moves I wanted to use and when to use my Fable arts and stuff like that made me much more formidable versus just swinging my like sword and it wasn't working. So I tried this other sword and then it wasn't really working. And like, I played through it first blind. So playing, knowing the game and kind of understanding it and then following like having like an actual build helped. That I actually finally beat the nameless puppet on this character. I never beat it on my first character.
Oh yeah.
So I went through and I beat the full game and got the good ending. I also made the right choice with Sophia, which I didn't do the first time around. So I got like the good ending, and then I went back to my original save file and got the bad ending. So I got like both of those achievements and got to see, how they ended up, both of them. So really the only ending I haven't gotten is like the in-between ending, if I care enough. I rolled my first character into New Game Plus to maybe like mess around with stuff in New Game Plus, and then I left my character that I just finished the game with at end game for the DLC. So
yeah, nice.
Yeah, great game.
But the game you actually want to talk about.
Well, yeah, the game, like the more current games that I've been playing, one that we didn't talk about last time that I was playing last time was Avowed, because Avowed came to Game Pass. It is what Outer Worlds was to Fallout. It is like that to Skyrim, basically. It's Obsidian's kind of smaller, a little bit more streamlined fantasy game, but it's, still the first person, still very much like Bethesda inspired. I played it probably for somewhere around 8 hours or so. I got into the game, got off the starting island, got into like the main town, was doing side quests, had unlocked a couple companions, had definitely made a choice or two that I could see where I could have like potentially handled those situations differently. One where I ended up having to like fight my way out of this part of town that was controlled by this gang, and the decision I made basically made all the gang members in that area hostile, and so it was like, okay, now I have to like fight them, kill their leader, get out of there. Whereas I'm sure there were ways to like talk your way through that. But I don't know if it's just that's not the itch that I want to scratch right now, or if it just, if it just wasn't hit. I mean, a lot of the reviews have been kind of that like 7 out of 10. Like, this game it's a perfectly fine video game. It's not doing anything that's going to like shatter your expectations or rock your world necessarily, but and for me, as somebody who, I like a lot of games that are in that kind of 7 to 10 range, this one just wasn't what I wanted to be playing, I guess, because that I dropped it and went to Liza P because I was like, I need to play something with combat that I enjoy, because this game, like, it's getting a lot of praise for its combat, for what it is. Like, the first person melee feels really impactful. The magic and like spells and stuff look really cool. The whole game looks really, like, the art style is really pretty and really unique. I like the art style. But just for me, it's that kind of like standing back and casting at things until you run out of mana, or going up and like bonking them and then like skirting out of the way when they try to bonk you. It feels really like messy compared to the more action games that I have kind of been preferring lately. And then I wasn't really like, nothing in the story or the writing, none of the characters I had interacted with yet had really made me be like, oh, this is great. Like, I'm super invested in this world, super invested in these characters, want to see how their stories progress. Like, that has not happened. Maybe that would happen if I kept playing it, but I kept kind of playing it because I didn't really have anything else I was actively playing, and because I wanted to give it like a fair shake, to be able to say like, okay, I gave this like a good solid few nights, couple hours a night, like, I got into the game. But ultimately just kind of ended up being like, maybe I'll revisit it down the road and it will be the right time for me, and I'll be like, yes, this is the exact like experience that I'm looking for right now. But that just didn't really feel like the case with Avowed right now. So I think I'm really just kind of, I don't think anything is really going to scratch the itch, because my itch is Assassin's Creed. And so like, that's so close. It's like, I'll be playing it whenever you hear this. And so it's like, these other games maybe if I wasn't like in that mode of like really wanting to get my hands on Assassin's Creed, these games might, have a little better time clicking and me sticking with them. But I'm like, man, this isn't what I really want to be playing right now. So that's kind of why I went back to Liza P, and why I've been bouncing around a ton of, I say a ton, but just kind of bouncing around and not really like sticking with something new. So
yeah. I understand where you're at.
Yeah.
I was there in the lead up to Monster Hunter. So
yeah, so like for me, it's been a lot of Marvel Rivals, because I can just hop in, play as many matches as I feel like for the night, and then, kind of be done. Kind of like why you were probably playing a lot of Hunt and stuff when you're waiting for.
Exactly.
It's like the comfort, the like low commitment. You're not getting invested in a story. You're not like, you get in, you play some matches, you're done, you had a good time, hopefully. and then that's it. And so I'm waiting to really like sink into Assassin's Creed Shadows. Like that's the one I'm like waiting for. So
now I guess my question with Avowed is like, it's set in their like Pillars of Eternity world. Did you like, you got like 8-9 hours in, did you feel like you understood what was going on? Like, did they do a good job of like introducing you to the world, or did you get the sense that like they kind of expected you to play Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 before you played this game?
I didn't see any Pillars or any Eternity.
Okay.
But it felt like what they kind of how they approached that was, here's the like setup of this story within this world, and then all the characters that you interact with are going to be dropping a lot of like proper nouns and stuff that you will get a lot more from if you understand the world and the Pillars games. But if not, you'll be like, fantasy thing, and kind of just can roll with it. And I do feel like, something I really love about The Witcher is how much they just drop you in the world, and it doesn't really feel like the characters are trying necessarily to bring you up to speed.
Yeah.
I feel like Avowed, it's not the most egregious at that. I think that the next game I'll talk about, if we get to it, is a little bit more egregious in that department, but Avowed definitely does that to like a certain extent, where it's like, we want to keep saying, like, bringing these things up and giving like little bits of exposition and stuff to try to like get you up to speed with, what's going on here, as you're the main hero of this story. So, but I didn't find it to be like distracting necessarily. It kind of just felt like, standard fantasy stuff.
Yeah, and it sounds like you had like a pretty good idea of what was going on in the story. It's not a sequel to a Pillars of Eternity game necessarily. It's just in the universe.
Yeah, the core story is pretty self-contained and very, at least unless there's some sort of major twist down the line, it's very like simple, straightforward. Like, you are a person, this is your mission, go do your mission. And then where like kind of the decisions and nuance come in are like, how do you want to treat people? Who do you want to have in your party? Which ways do you want to approach some of these? But like the ultimate beats are very clear and very, they're not anything that we haven't seen in this genre at all. So,
yeah. Gotcha.
Okay. So, not reinventing anything, but doing a solid job at it.
Yeah. And like I said, it looks really good. Like, I do think they went for a pretty unique like art style and direction, and it plays just fine. It definitely feels more like streamlined maybe, or like it definitely doesn't feel as like open and the world is your oyster and we're just going to drop you in this world and you go like have an adventure like a Skyrim or a Fallout. It's more like, here are your somewhat wide paths that you can take, which is kind of how Outer Worlds was. Like, Outer Worlds was not a big open world game. It was like a contained story that went to some like zones that you could, and they wanted it to be more dense rather than big. Like, so
Yeah.
which is fine.
I generally like.
Yeah. Sometimes quality is better than quantity. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So that is Avowed. Let's loop it back around to you, Aubrey. You've already kind of teased the other game that you have been playing.
Hmm. Yeah, so my next one was Tavern Manager Simulator. It's been one that's been in my wish list for a while, good long while. I think I even put it in there before it released, but I could be completely wrong. I have no idea. My Steam wish list is like my to be read list. It's like a black hole of stuff that looks mildly interesting to me that file away somewhere, and then I get all these emails like, "Hey, this thing's on sale." I'm like, eh. But the timing was
You've
right.
abused it. You've taken it too far. It's not a
Yeah,
helpful tool anymore.
yeah. So the timing was right. I was picking up Assassin's Creed on sale because it's always going on sale, and it was
yeah.
also about half
Ubisoft needs
off.
money.
Right. So went ahead and picked it up and installed pretty quickly relative to Assassin's Creed. Obviously,
Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm much more
Shocking.
familiar with the like. Oh yeah, it's like 8 GB, and then Assassin's Creed is like, yeah, we're over here in our sweet little 60.
That's like
And then
half the
also
size of
just
the one that I pre-installed today.
I know.
Hmm.
And then it's also like, oh, and by the way, I won't install while you're playing another game. So
Ah,
that
nice.
also stalled that process way out a lot further because I didn't realize until
Yep.
I'd played all of that demo. But anywho, so I've played other like simulator games in that kind of vein of first person running around. You've got your like
Hmm.
your thing. So it opens with you acquiring a rundown, filthy, boarded up old tavern. And so you go through and you like pry all the boards off the windows and clean out all the junk, and you slowly upgrade. There are 12 levels you can upgrade through. I'm on 11 out of 12, and they'll like introduce new concepts with each one. So when like it first starts, you're only serving like bratwurst and ale,
Hmm.
Sounds good to
and you
me.
have to like, right?
Sounds like a
So you got
tavern.
to like pretty much. So you got to like prep the ale and like pour it out, and so there's like a little slider bar, and you got to press and hold and try and get it in that like perfect range, and you get like 20% more money back if you like pour the ale perfectly type thing. And then as it expands, you add tables, you get a stove, and so you can like cook stew and cook steaks. You got to wash all, like, you got to keep the dishes washed. So you got to, people will come in, sit down, tell you what they want, and they only order like one thing per person, but there's usually 2 to 3 people. At least in the early game. There are eventually some people towards the late game that will request multiple things, but so you go, you scoop it up on your little tray, you run it over to them, you click it down, they take however long they take to consume it, they leave, you click on the table, clear the table. Sometimes they make a mess, you gotta like wipe it to clean it up. Run the dishes back to your little sink, shake them around real vigorously in the water, and then they'll like reappear wherever you need them, like the plates for the steaks or the bowls for the stew or the cups for the ale. You eventually get like a VIP section where you can serve lords and ladies, and they have wine and cheese, and occasionally they'll have steak. And so you order supplies and they get delivered. And then you can hire fairies. They'll show up and they have like a resource that you have to buy to keep them fed. But they'll clean up, they'll serve
Mm,
stuff, they'll prep things.
your
But they only,
automation.
yeah,
Hmm.
but they'll only prep things of like basic quality.
Mm.
So it's like worth it to keep like the ale and the wine stocked and just have that be like basic quality. But you cook up the steaks in bulk and you cook up the stew in bulk. And so that is like it's worth it for me to go and make it and to have that be of like the best possible quality to get money back. You can adjust your prices to try and bring more people in or not bring more people in. Another thing about it, I think I am level 12 because I just upgraded to have a stable in the back for like the lords and ladies. And so now I have to toss hay and keep them watered and like scoop them up and take them in there while the lords and ladies are doing that. You get the ability to keep like a cold storage so you can chill your ale for like the knights don't want to drink room temperature ale. They only want the chilled ale.
Of course.
And then the
Damn
lords
knights.
want like, right. And then like the captain of the guard wants chilled wine. And so you have to keep a couple like things of wine on the ice too. So there's a little ice cave that you have to take a bucket of water and fill it up. But you can upgrade everything to make it more automated. So I've had the same fairy on dishes duty since I got them.
They're like, I'm going to get a promotion one of these days.
One of these days. I mean, I keep them very well fed. So as far as whatever needs they've expressed they have, is probably my most valuable fairy, actually. It's the one that does the dishes.
So on a scale from 1 to Slime Rancher, like, where does this fall for you? I say Slime Rancher just because I know you played a ton of that game.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd put it probably at about a 6.5. I've played
Yeah, that was going to be my question is where would you rank this in simulators that you've played / watched the Game Grumps play? So
right. So I've played Gas Station Simulator.
Same.
Bro.
And
It's good.
it is good. Gas Station Simulator, I think, has a slower like development and progression. Either that or I went like total crackhead on Tavern Manager Simulator and just like optimized the crap out of it and really ran through it, which I don't feel like I did. But I also don't know like relatively where I fall in terms of like simulation and resource management games. I know I enjoy them and play them a lot, so maybe I did just optimize the heck out of it. But
yeah, and I know sometimes when those are in early access, there's a lot of features that are not implemented yet. Is it in early access? Do you know, or is it fully
I think
launched?
it's a full release. I think it's fully released.
Okay.
So yeah, it took me like 3, maybe 4 solid days of play. I don't know how many hours exactly. Probably more than I'm anticipating. To get
13.9.
to yeah, you got
according to the review you left on Steam.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean it's good. There's just not too much to do in it, which makes I mean the loop grabbed me. The loop grabbed me hardcore. I am very much, and that's what like Spiritfarer and Slime Rancher did to me. Like it's very easy to be like, okay, let me just do one more thing. Let me do one more thing. Let me do one more thing. And eventually I would reach a point where I would run out of resources. Around the same time, I would have a big wave of customers and be like, okay, I have to like close down, reset, whatever, because you can just have the tavern open 24/7. There's not like an end of day mechanic, really. So I would do like a day and a half, 2 days straight open, and then I'd close overnight for like one night, reorder all of my supplies, get everything stocked up, get like primed and ready to go, chopping wood, drawing up water, all that kind of good stuff, cooking up as much of everything as I had like space for, reorder supplies as I could afford it, and then we'd like start going again. So in that 20 hours, I am in the end stage where the last thing for me to do is to build a whole entire inn in my backyard. And that's just basically keep playing until you accumulate buku money in order to afford that. and then let time pass while the builders build it. And then I don't know if that will open up any more gameplay or if that's just like, this is the end state, we're giving you a goal to work towards.
Right. Some lofty goal with like really high numbers to try to achieve. Yeah.
Just to keep you playing or to give you a reason to kind of experiment with your play style. Like maybe it is worth it to drive costs up so you make more money and it's like less stress and you can focus on cooking stuff up. But you accumulate the fairies really quickly. Like I think you max out on the fairies by like level 7 or 8. And with each subsequent level, you get like 1 to 2. So I've got, it feels like a dozen, but it's probably not actually that many. It's probably only like 8. They're running around all over the place. They prioritize things kind of weirdly. And it felt like every time I would like, okay, we got no orders. We're all set up. Everybody's running stuff. I'm going to go make some steak. And then I'd go back and like start the cooking process or like making a stew. And I'd see in my little pop-up, like an urgent orders come in. And they've all decided that they're just going to clear tables rather than address the urgent order. And I'm like, I'm in the middle of cooking steak.
So it's like hiring a bunch of
Somebody
teenagers.
get that. Basically, it's like your priorities are fascinating. But thankfully nothing takes so long. Like an urgent order will always be at least 1 minute. And then the cooking, like up the steak, does not take a full minute. So there's typically, if I clock it in time, I can wrap up what I'm doing and like get it taken care of. It's not very punishing. But the loop is very fun. And then you can hold shift to sprint. And that translated into when I hopped on WoW with Brayden and just like instinctually we're playing classic. And so I'm level 37 and I'm still running around and I'm just subconsciously holding shift down and it's doing fuck all to make me move any faster.
Yeah.
But like there's like you don't have a health bar. There's no like you can run all over the people and whatever. So I'm like jumping out of my balcony dining area and landing on the bar to like serve people down on the ground and climbing all over them to get to them.
It sounds like
pretty
you
ridiculous.
went full crackhead on it, and that's why you.
Yeah, probably. It's my shtick. Like it's my thing.
It's your soul's like.
It is. Yeah. I think I would have liked to have seen either like 1 or 2 more mechanics or dining mechanics. Like nobody really orders the chilled wine like ever. And then also the fairies can deliver it, so I just have to like prep it. And I don't know. We'll see what the stables in the back does in terms of like the loop. But I would like to have like 1 or 2 more food stuffs to like prepare or resources to manage. I think would just make it just a touch more interesting. I was grateful that you can set a couple fairies to clean up because occasionally you'll have a really filthy group of guests come through and they leave footprints everywhere and they just drop crap like all over the floor, like an apple with a bite taken out of it and a pile of whatever. And so if your tavern gets dirty, you lose reputation points and people don't like it. So having a couple fairies on the cleaning, and then you've got an outhouse, and about 3 times a day somebody clogs the outhouse, and so you like you got to go out there with like a mop and and clean it out.
How do you clog an outhouse?
I don't know, but again, thankfully, if you set a fairy to cleaning, they will address it. So that's usually not something I have to think about too much, unless they're taking forever, and so there'll be like a traveler who shows up and he needs water, or there'll be a beggar at the entrance that you can either like chase off with a frying pan or just give them like 15 gold and, tell them to move on. Oh, and there are thieves that will go back to your storeroom and try and steal your supplies, but they move
some bratwurst.
Yeah, they move very slowly and they have a very distinct design. So it's pretty easy. Like once you clock it one time, you're like, oh, I have to wait for you to walk all the way back there before I can tell you to go away. But it's fun. Cool. And so I got it for like $12. Definitely have had $12 worth of fun out of it, and
Got more than $1 an hour.
Yeah.
You know?
right,
There you go.
exactly.
More than an hour per dollar.
Yeah. I knew what you
that
meant.
one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So definitely worth picking up on sale, and if it's your thing, it's probably worth picking up full price,
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
because I think full price is only like $20.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's not bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say most of them are not like ridiculously expensive games. So
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Dylan, you have a handful of games on your list. Which one do you want to get to on this episode?
Let's see. I mean, I'll talk about the Outlast Trials.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so,
Spooky.
a little. I mean, it's
If you're desensitized like Dylan, it's not spooky.
well, see, okay. So it's Outlast Trials is another game in the Outlast series. This one with more of a multiplayer focus.
Okay.
The Outlast series is technically a like horror spooky game. That said, most games, especially the Outlast that are trying to be horror, are still video games and still are like there are set things that are programmed. And so once you understand how the like AI works, to me, it's not that scary because it's kind of just like, oh, I know exactly how to like not have them find me sort of thing. Um, and I know that because it is coded this way, like that, like that's not to say that there aren't still moments of tension,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't find myself scared in this game. Just because it's like, yeah, no, okay, like there's this crazy lady with like a sock puppet with a drill inside its mouth that is like chasing us around trying to find us and kill us, but as long as I just stay in the dark, she can't find me, you know? And she has like kind of a set patrol path. So as long as I just pay attention to what she's doing, I can just go where I need to go without triggering her. So,
So as a
I could see that
multiplayer
shifting from
game,
scary to
yes.
frustrating.
oh yeah. As a multiplayer game, like what is the goal of this one?
So the Outlast Trials is set in it's basically like the MK Ultra program. So
Okay.
a shady, sketchy corporation has like pretty much just kidnapped homeless people off the streets, put them in this facility, and is like, hey, we're giving you treatment. And in order to do that, like you have to go into these trials and complete them. And if you complete enough of them, then you'll be done with treatment and we'll release you back out into the world, basically.
The
And
government
essentially,
wouldn't do that.
yeah, and essentially this is just MK Ultraing them. So it's, you know, like the numbers mason, like so that they get to the point where like all of the scenarios are set up as like, oh, this uh this judge like someone is on trial, we can't let them get in trouble, so you need to go in. And so like all of the little things you have to do in that trial are like destroy the evidence, like get rid of the witnesses, all of this kind of stuff. And so you can kind of see where it's just kind of prepping for it to like be MK Ultra, where they like call them up, give them their numbers, and then they go and they do whatever the CIA wants them to do, sort of situation. So it's essentially just a big, in my mind, like puzzle game, but like the fucked up version of of it. So
The man, wouldn't it be fucked up if version
yeah,
of a puzzle
yeah.
game.
So like you've got this I'm trying to think of one that's like not super like, so I think like the first mission is like there is this guy that is like ratting on what's going on here or something like that, so you have to shut the rat up. Like that's the mission. The rat is being kept in a police station, so they drop you in, you have to go in, infiltrate the police station, You have to find like some keys. You have to turn on the power. You have to like push the guy who is the rat into like the chamber with the electric chair, and then like it finishes with you putting him in the electric chair and killing him. And that's like kind of um the way that that level plays out. But there's always it's a bunch of like little objectives that you're completing along the way in order to get that there. And you can do it solo, you can do it multiplayer, and a lot like as you're doing this, there's like one big bad guy on each map. Um, I think there are 3 in the game. There's like a like cop bad guy. There's a like a crazy like cop bad guy. A crazy like lady with a sock puppet that like talks to it. It's that one's weird. And then there's like essentially like what if Scarface but fucked up even more so. Um, and also like a lot of mommy issues and like a lot of baby stuff. So
No
so like
doubt
those
throw a
are
freaky baby in there.
yeah, essentially. So those like so each map has like one of those big bad guys on it, but then there are a bunch of like little other bad guys that'll patrol around, be looking for you. If you get spotted, you have to basically like there's no way to fight back. You're just trying to run away. Um, and it you have a headset of like night vision goggles that you can use to see in the dark, but the enemies can't see you in the dark. There are a bunch of sound traps around, so like if you're in the dark, you have to make sure you're not like stepping on broken glass or knocking over like cans or something like that to let the enemies know where you are, but you can kind of sneak around and do these things. And so it's a lot of like little puzzly things that you're trying to do while all of these murderous psychopaths are trying to like kill you while you're trying to do them. So it's kind of like Call of Duty Zombies, but you don't have to like play Call of Duty in order to do it. Um, and then after each mission, you get to go back to like the central hub, and you can upgrade some special powers. You can upgrade your like get bonuses that like let your health start recharging or let you hide better or that sort of thing. Um, but yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. And I would recommend it to people that like sort of the puzzly games. Like if you like the Call of Duty Zombies or you like a like trying to complete all of these little objectives and you don't mind there being some spookiness while you're trying to do that. I think this is a pretty solid game to check out. Um, I did, like I said, I think I've played through the entire first Outlast. I haven't gotten the second Outlast yet, but they are like if you like the Outlast games, this is more Outlast as well. So like, and you can play through it like solo. It's not a impossible thing.
Wired. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's
and
what
like
I was
once you
gonna
get
ask was, is it like it's just a Outlast game where you can play co-op, or is co-op like, is that the preferred way
it's
to play?
I don't know that I'd say preferred because like to me I've done both and it feels good either way in my opinion.
Okay.
Like it doesn't feel like it was clearly set up. Like it doesn't feel like you're at a huge disadvantage if you choose to play solo.
It kind
And
of
then the
felt like,
final mission for each like to get out, you have to do one final mission and that final mission is only solo.
oh, interesting.
So yeah.
Because it kind of felt like leading up to this game, just from what I saw, which obviously was not a ton because it's
Mhm.
not a game I care about, but
Yeah.
it seemed like it was like being talked about as the co-op Outlast. Like the co-op was a big
Yeah.
emphasis on it leading up to it, but maybe it was just
Mhm.
like because it was the first time that was available.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think they did make a big thing of the co-op as well.
Gotcha.
And I don't watch a lot of Twitch and that sort of thing, so I don't know how popular it is. But like I would imagine that a lot of the like co-op streamers that like play games like what was that one that was kind of big?
The
Um
overreactions streamers.
well, just like what was it? Lethal Company and like Phasmophobia
Yeah.
and like the ones that like if you enjoyed those kind of games, I think like this is definitely will give you and your group more of that feel, because it is in that similar vein where it's like you're trying to like Phasmophobia is maybe a good example where it's like you're trying to figure out what the ghost is, you're trying to like set up and do stuff, you're trying to complete some objectives, but there is a ghost and they're trying to kill you. And then this one, it's like there are people trying to murder you in these trials. And you know it is Outlast, so it is like gruesome and gory and like all of this extra. Like at some point, it's like you're doing a like you it's the set in like the 40s or 50s, so it's very much like you have to make sure that the children are like being like taking the Eucharist or whatever essentially, and so at some point they like roll out this dude being crucified on a cross and you cut his leg off and that is the blood that you give all the little like mannequin children sort of thing, and it's just wild and crazy.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of like I don't know, I enjoy the like puzzle objective-y piece of it where it's like in order to like destroy this bit of evidence you have to turn on a black light and look around and like try to find a code and piece a code together and then put that code into the box and then you can get the evidence which then you can destroy, you know. So there's a lot of like little stuff like that where it's I went into it kind of expecting it to be very samey, like it's like okay they have like 3 different objectives and that's it, and I was genuinely surprised and happy that there were a ton of like I think there are maybe 9 different like big maps and a bunch of like little smaller objective maps, but the 9 big ones I'm pretty sure is almost completely different each time. Like
Nice.
there's maybe a little bit of overlap on some of them, but for the most part you're doing different things each time, which I thought was pretty cool because I was like wow, I kind of expected there to be way less effort put into this. I
Yeah.
was kind of looking at it like, oh, this is going to be like a cheap streamer game that, you know, hits the zeitgeist for 2 weeks and then everybody moves on from it. But they've actually like put some time, put some effort into it. And as far as I know, it's still like actively being developed too. Like it's complete, it's out, but I want to say the like Scarface Baby Man was like a post-launch thing that came out. And so I don't know if I haven't really looked into like are they continuing to develop this or not. But there was like if you enjoy it, I do think that there's potential for like more of it to come too. So
Cool.
yeah, definitely not this group's maybe like something that I can see Aubrey watching like Markiplier or the Game Grumps play this game, but
Yeah.
I don't think this is a game Andrew would ever touch or watch. So
No desire whatsoever.
Sounds like it might be trying to come for I mean, not very effectively, or nor could it take the like the player base, but trying to be like a hey, we're over here, maybe for the people who enjoy like Dead by Daylight or Phasmophobia, like either of those
hmm
that like
yeah, I definitely think the Phasmophobia crowd would probably enjoy it a lot. And the Dead by Daylight, like if you want to do more than just fix a generator, like
yeah,
there is more than just there is fix generator. That is an objective you can sometimes do,
of
but there
course.
is more than fix generator as well.
Yeah.
Um, so but
Especially
yeah,
that like again streamer crowd
mhm.
that plays a lot of both of those.
Exactly. So
Cool.
Neat.
Well, the last game that I have on my list, and it's one that, maybe will come up again on a neighborhood watch because I've really only played like 3 or 4 hours at this point, but the PlayStation gave away Dragon Age the Veilguard on PlayStation Plus, and so
that explains why
yeah.
you're playing it.
is it as bad as you were expecting?
I mean, so for me, like I didn't when the reviews came out, and then obviously there's a whole big culture war around this game as well. But for me, like the things that kind of put me off, like when initially it was announced, or not announced, but like when we first saw that gameplay of it, which was literally like the opening of what you get to play in the game, I was like, oh, this actually looks pretty good. And then like reviews came out talking about how it feels very surface level and safe, and there's the levels are very linear, and just like a lot of the things that were being said about it started making me feel like, okay, I don't need to spend $70 on this game. I'll play it maybe at some point down the road. But and I'm torn on the art direction and like the character models. Like I don't necessarily hate it in concept, but the more I've been like playing through the game, whenever the characters are on screen like chatting with each other, I don't know if they didn't quite nail matching up like the environments to the more like stylized cartoony characters, or if it's just the cartoony characters in general, or but there's just something about them that I'm like, it's not my favorite. Like I don't think it's the end of the world or the worst thing I've ever seen. But I'm like, I think I would have rather, a better looking Inquisition style, or, something more like The Witcher, like something, I guess, a little more realistic looking. The kind of cartoony, stylized art direction they went with was, it's, I don't know if it's like an uncanny valley thing or what there's just something about it where it's like,
Yeah, it's that weird mix of like realistic but cartoony that triggers that like uncanny valley piece, I think,
Right. It's like they didn't lean far enough into cartoony if they wanted to go that route.
Yeah, like they didn't go far enough either way. They kind of picked a middle ground. Yeah. I do agree with that. Like the art style is not my favorite.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer cuz like, at least from what I've played of Inquisition and stuff, it does feel like a more mature and not like super grimdark or anything like The Witcher, but like a more mature RPG telling a more mature story, and then you kind of have these uncanny cartoon characters carrying it out. As far as the story so far, I am very aware of our mission and what is happening because every single character keeps telling me over and over in different ways, we disrupted Solus's ritual and 2 other gods got out that are way worse than him, and now we have to stop them. And in my like 3 or 4 hours that I've played so far, that is basically all the characters have said in just different fashions. And so I'm like, okay, this game is much more heavy-handed in the like exposition, and it's not even like world building exposition or lore dumping. It's more just like, hey, we want to make sure you're very aware that like Solus was a bad guy. But when we interrupted his ritual, which we just did like 15 minutes ago, I don't know if you forgot, 2 way worse guys got out. And so now we have to deal with that. And it's like, I get it. And maybe that, I don't know, maybe we get, obviously there's going to be more like character specific quests and stuff because it's BioWare and that's kind of their thing. But like right now, as I'm like kind of accumulating my party, it's a lot of either me or one of my already like with me party members bringing the next one up to speed. And it's just over and over. And the writing does kind of feel like it's fallen victim to that like Marvel, quippy, You know,
Yeah.
we walked.
Oh, he's right behind me, isn't he?
Yeah, we walked into this like village where like the villagers weren't there anymore, and everything looked really like messed up, and the character literally said, "It's quiet, too quiet," and I was like, okay.
Yeah, like doesn't feel like they're reacting in a normal person way.
No, and it doesn't feel like they're reacting in like a kind of almost like even in universe way, or like it definitely feels like they were very influenced by that kind of like Marvel. You know, I enjoy Marvel movies at least up to Endgame and a few after that, but it's like they definitely did kind of overuse and then inspire other creatives and studios and stuff to use that like kind of quippy.
Yeah.
We
like
can't.
people like Tony Stark.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
all just make everybody Tony Stark.
We can't have a serious moment without a joke. You know, like we can't just like let it sit there for too long. So it's definitely the writing is not doing anything for me so far. Again, I'm in that like waiting for Assassin's Creed mode, so I don't know how like once that comes out, I don't know how long I'll like if I'll play this or when I'll get back to it. I will say that the combat is pretty fun so far. One of the complaints I remember hearing in the reviews is that it doesn't really change much, and I can kind of see that being the case. But like at a baseline, like what you're doing is pretty cool. Like it's got a little bit more of that like action game. You have a parry, a dodge, all that kind of stuff, and then you can sort of pause combat, or in the midst of things, if you want to do like the quick menu version of it, you can tell your party members to do their special moves, or you can do your special moves. And then I just got to a point where it was like teaching me about synergies, where it's like, okay, if you have this party member do this first, then that can like link up with a follow-up from this party member and it'll do like tons of damage. So like there's some pretty cool stuff there. There's some depth to like how you can have your party members be part of the fight. It feels a little floaty, like for the type of combat it is. The parry is super forgiving, but I find myself like getting hit when I try to dodge when I feel like I shouldn't, or also it feels like the enemies don't have like they all just have ridiculous amounts of poise. Like there's no, when they're rearing back to do their hit, you have to get out of the way or you have to parry. There's no like I can keep hitting them and they'll stagger. Like I think they do stagger, but it takes a lot to do that. So there's a few little like quirks in the combat, but overall I think it's pretty fun. The levels so far, the like quests for this being an RPG have literally just been like segmented: fast travel to area, talk to character, go through like linear hallway, get to end, fight a mini boss, quest complete. So there's no real major exploration yet. I think I just got back to kind of what's like a bit more of a hub that I can kind of go out from and poke around, and I haven't really had any like side quests in my log yet where it's like, oh, here are some other things to go do, you know, as opposed to following the linear path. So I don't really have much to speak on to that, but what I have played so far has been very like segmented and linear, which isn't always a bad thing, but you know, sometimes in these grand adventure fantasy RPGs, you do want a little bit less linearity and a little bit more freedom of end exploration. So it's been okay so far. What I was go ahead.
I was gonna say it's been okay so far. Obviously, it's kind of just tiding you over till Assassin's Creed. Let's say, you know, a couple of months down the road, you've beaten Assassin's Creed. Do you see yourself going back? Like, is this a game where you're like, oh, I do want to get back to that and at least like see it through the end or talk about it? Or is it one that's kind of like, yeah, I may pick it back up, I may not?
It's probably more of the latter of like, if you know, if I'm in a like a gaming lump or slump or lull, it's like, yeah, I could see myself, but I'm much more excited about Doom. I'm much more excited about like Expedition 33 and South of Midnight and like a bunch of other games that are First Berserker. So like there's a lot more this year that I'm excited to play than than going back to this game. I found
Yeah, and
myself thinking when I was playing through it, a thought that I had that I just remembered was, I wish that I could play a game that had like this kind of combat, but the like writing and world of Baldur's Gate. Because
Yeah.
the writing and stuff is so like not it in Dragon Age, and that's like my favorite part of Baldur's Gate, but then the gameplay of the two is like flipped, so it's like, oh man.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I guess this is a game you probably wouldn't have picked up aside from getting it for free. Like,
Yeah, I mean, maybe if it was
I think
like
it's been
super
on
cheap.
pretty. I was gonna say, I think it's been on pretty deep discount, like $40 or something like that.
Yeah, no, it would have
For
to
a
be
while.
it'd have to be like 20 or less probably for me to,
Yeah,
just with all the other games
Mm-hmm.
that I'd like rather play that are, so it's like, we also have
Yeah.
Night Rain coming out. I forgot about that when I was listing off
Yeah.
games. So it's like, yeah, and also like I canceled my PlayStation Plus. It runs out in June. So if I don't get back to it before June, who knows when I'll go back to it.
That's not the game you're resubbing for.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of where I'm at with Veilguard. Like I said, if I do go back to it or if I do play more, I may like do another update on a neighborhood watch or something. So I may have some more thoughts to share on it. But like that's kind of my first impressions currently. So
Gotcha.
cool. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this episode up with a big fat plug for our Discord. Basically, we reached out to our community in Discord. So if you want to be part of episodes like this one, join our Discord. There's a link in the podcast description. Every episode has one. You can also find it like on our website and stuff. It's available to you. But what we did, and we've done this in the past, is reach out to our community, pose the question, hey, what have you guys been playing? What's something interesting that you want to shout out, have us read on the show, maybe let other people know about, or, if we have some thoughts to share on these, we can, obviously. So we reached out, said, what have you guys been playing? And our first response came from Colin. And Colin said, I just started playing Marvel Rivals and Trine 4. Trine isn't my typical game style, but pretty good so far. And yeah, I'm very, very well aware of what Marvel Rivals is. I know I've
no idea
heard
what
the
Trine
name
4 is.
Trine, but I can't, like, I need to look it up and
Yeah.
see what it looks like.
It's like it's a side-scrolling like fantasy game.
okay.
I've heard about it a bunch, but I've never actually like played it. I know it gets consistently like good reviews.
Yeah, this looks pretty cool.
But I think I've played not Trine 4, but one of the earlier ones, and like if you've listened to the show, you know that I'm not huge into like side scrollers, right?
Yeah.
So I think like I appreciated it for what it was, but then we're kind of just like, yep, I'm kind of good. But it reminded me a lot of like, one of the Mario Brothers type of games, but like in a style, like a fantasy style that I like a bit more. So
Do you do like action combat, or is it literally like
it's
bouncing
it's
on
more
heads?
of it's more of a platformer, I want to say.
Okay.
I don't think it's, at least the parts that I have played, like I do think there is combat, but the parts that I played, I think were definitely much more of the like platformy type.
Nice. I may have to check that out on Switch.
Yeah.
The next response we got was from John with no H. That is John from the Video Game Lounge. And he said, I have been using a quest guide for The Witcher 3. It has really helped me with what order to do quests and side quests. I can't really pinpoint why this game didn't stick with me on previous attempts other than ADD and being overwhelmed by stuff on the map. I have really enjoyed this playthrough and about to start Act 2. Also, huge shout out to you, Andrew, for entertaining and answering my questions on the game. Yeah, anytime he posts in there like just got to this point. Here are my thoughts, or what do you guys think of this, or what does this mean? I'm like, I'm quick. I'm like, I'm down to talk about some like nerdy
Yeah.
Witcher stuff.
Hey, that's
It's like showing
mindful.
somebody your favorite movie and like, what did you think of this part? What did you like?
Yeah, exactly.
Like watching through a show you recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yep. So
great game.
yeah, it's for sure. And definitely like quest guides for that game, I do feel like would help a lot. It's one of the few games that I actually have like the strategy guide for because
Nice.
I feel like that would help. So
Yeah, especially on like a first playthrough, and like John was
Mhm.
saying, if you haven't been able to kind of like sink into it the first
yeah.
couple times you've tried it, like getting some momentum and progression, and
Mhm.
actually kind of getting into the meat of the story, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
experiencing some of the like better quests, or like the quests in like
Yeah.
the optimal order can definitely
Yeah,
help
because
with
it
that.
does just kind of throw you in and just kind of be like, once you get out of White Orchard, it's pretty much just like, and kind of just do whatever, I guess,
Yeah, like
Yeah.
So,
So anything to help build that momentum is good.
yeah, and they do like level gate, like you're
yeah.
not really going to go to Skellige right out of White Orchard, but it is like the zones they put you in. It's like, yep. And like he said, question marks everywhere on the map, which I think in the next gen update, which I assume he's playing on PS5, they took
Tone
the
that down.
question marks off and like let you just kind of find those things organically. I think it's like a toggle you could switch, but like I think they switched it to be default is like less of that stuff to kind of show you more key stuff on the map. And because a lot of those question marks are just like a treasure chest in the river that has a sword and a coat you'll never use, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
That's worth investigating.
yep. Then we got a response from Real Dave Jackson from Tales from the Backlog, and he said, I've mostly been playing Monster Hunter alongside
Yeah.
a few indies, El Paso Elsewhere and Wanderstop. Nice mix of
Nice.
games and tones.
Nice. Yeah, I have been playing mostly Monster Hunter. I didn't really talk about it on this show because we will likely be doing a much more in-depth show on Monster Hunter at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely super good. I'm interested to hear some more of Dave's thoughts on it because that'll be cool. And I am interested in Wanderstop. That is like an interest. Like that's one that's been on my radar for a little bit. It's the who made it? They made something else.
Yeah, I know it's made by sort of like a now more famous indie developer, but I can't.
Yeah. Who did they? All right. Well, I thought this was going to be a lot easier to find. I want to say it's the Stanley Parable guy.
Yeah,
Oh.
that could be. If you're
Yeah,
curious,
the creator of the Stanley Parable. and
Dave
the
has a
Beginner's
video
Guide.
on his YouTube that you can check out. He got to do a preview of Wanderstop that was really well
Yeah.
done. So
Yeah, it's like you're an adventurer. You go to like a tea shop, to like kind of like you're burned out, and there's story that comes along with that. Like it's not just I'm at a tea shop. I think so.
yeah, you like end up running the tea shop, and yeah, I think the whole tones and themes of the game are supposed to be about like video game development and burnout and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
and I remember when El Paso Elsewhere came out like a couple years ago. It's kind of like a throwback Max Payne kind of style game. It sounded pretty cool,
okay.
and it's got like really good reviews on Steam and stuff. So that one is one that I had like when I heard people talking about it when it launched, I was like, oh, that's one I may check out at some point because it sounded pretty interesting. Then I kind of like forgot about it. So now that Dave is bringing it back up here, I may have to look into it. Let's see. Then we got a response from Jay, the man, the myth, the legend, who has finally completed and published the remaining episodes of the GURPS season of Super Bracket Bros. Go check that out if you've been eagerly awaiting the culmination of that show. Spoilers, I ended up in the like losers matchup, which they always do in the toilet store. So that episode was quite entertaining to record. I'm sure it's quite entertaining to listen to as well. You should definitely go check that out. But Jay said, I've been playing the latest auto battler on the block, the Bazaar.
Mm-hmm.
Great game, feels good to play, a lot of depth and strategy and synergies that make for endless interesting combos. However, it has just exited a paid closed beta and entered a free open beta. With this change, it has become free to play. And also pay to win.
Oh, yeah.
The introduction of a ridiculous prize pass system that looks and feels bad might be the ruin of the game. It's been met with a severe reaction from those that enjoy the game, and specifically those that have already paid money to play the game during the closed beta, as they are receiving no continued benefit of having bought it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
I'll continue playing for free for a bit, but if they continue withholding powerful items behind a paywall, I might be dipping on this game sooner than anticipated.
Oof, that's a bummer.
Hopefully they can walk that back, because I've heard people talk about the Bazaar and it being like a really fun, really cool game. I haven't really looked into it too much myself, but
yeah, I just pulled up like a trailer of it, and it kind of looks like I'm sure it's got more nuance, but it kind of looked like the auto battler in Hearthstone to me.
Oh, okay.
But I'm sure it's way more than that. That's just my initial read on how it's kind of laid out and set up. So
yeah, hopefully the developer takes the feedback they're getting to heart and does right by their, especially like Jay said about the people who paid up front for it.
Yeah.
That's kind of a bummer.
And and like walking back some of the like pay, like I don't know, anytime that game winning stuff is locked behind a pass, that's always like kind of sucky.
Yeah.
So.
And leave the pass for like cosmetics and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We got a response from Verbal, who is Stefan, who is on our Fantasy Critic League. So you've heard his voice on those episodes and videos, but he chimed in following up Jay and said, been loving the Bazaar until the pay to win stuff came in. Really unfortunate and hope they pull it back a notch. And then he said, I am currently back in a World of Warcraft phase, so that has been taking up most of my time as of late.
Nice.
Yep.
It does that.
Yeah. Surprise. But solid.
Yeah. Stefan is one of the people that I play Rivals with whenever I'm like partying up with those guys, the Wait For It guys. And yeah, lately it's been like, no, I'm playing WoW. I'm not getting on tonight. So definitely have seen the impacts of his World of Warcraft phase.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so it's what, like Tuesday through Thursday, like, are definite, like, Stefan's not on Rivals.
Yeah, or he'll like hop on for a little bit and he'll be like, yeah, I'm going back to WoW.
Yeah.
Let's see. Then our last response we got was from Starlord07, who said, I've been getting into Phasmophobia, Rocket League, yeah, unfortunately, and Rivals. But my wife started playing Skyrim for the first time, and that's been a problem. She's always on my PS5.
Yeah.
Get it, girl.
Nice.
I say, sounds like you need another gaming setup, just drop another,
Get you another console.
Another TV, all that. Yeah, be like the dual TV couple.
Yeah. Yep. So, but Skyrim is one of those games that I do think it'd be cool to go back and experience for the first time again, right? Because like it was pretty awesome back in the day. Like, so that's kind of a cool thing for her to get a chance to be like, I'm doing my own, like, I'm starting this very cool game, like all of the weird cool stuff that seems just kind of normal because we've seen it before we've discovered it. You know, it's like, oh, you get to experience this for the first time. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and I've seen Skyrim grab people that
mhm.
I wouldn't think of as like typical gamers too. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it did a pretty good job of like reaching into the casual audience and like, you know, the
Mhm.
people who play like just, you know, one or two games ever, or like, you know, mostly just like Grand Theft Auto type people.
mm,
It like seeped into that market pretty effectively. So
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. So, and I know Phasmophobia's had a ton of updates since we played it in like
2020.
2020.
Yeah, it was during the
So,
COVID stuff. I don't remember if it was like 2021 or 2020, but yeah.
mhm.
yeah, I'll hop back on close to maybe annually and
Mhm.
go, whoa,
Yep.
they've changed a bunch, and then
Yeah.
play a couple rounds and have a tough time because they've changed a bunch, and then not play for
Mhm.
another year, and then hop on and go, whoa, they've changed a lot.
Yep.
So, which is cool. It's cool to see it like growing and developing and maintaining a user base, but
Mhm.
it's definitely a different experience now than it was when we were playing it way back in early access.
Yeah. For sure.
Cool. Well, thank you everybody so much for submitting your responses and heeding the call that we asked for. Thanks for making this episode even better than it was already. If, like I said before, if you want to be part of this segment or segments like it, we asked our community about if they had questions for Night Rain when we did that like preview episode. We asked them. We we definitely seek their input when we're doing like game of the year stuff at the end of the year. So like if you want to
Mhm.
be part of those conversations, hop in our Discord.
Yeah.
With all that being said, wrapping this episode up, a little bit of housekeeping, like we kind of teased at the beginning. Aubrey is heading out to have a baby, so she will be gone for a while and then make her
Yeah.
return whenever she is ready. On the podcast front, though, we will keep on chugging along. We've got some cool topics, cool episodes, and stuff lined up. We recently did an episode on Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, where we experimented a little bit with the format for how we can talk about games that like only one of us has played, but actually like
Mhm.
give them a full, deep kind of conversation episode. So if you checked out that episode and you know have thoughts on that format, you like it, don't like it, what works, what didn't, like I would love to hear that. You know, you can either message me directly in Discord or join our server and ping me, whatever. Just kind of curious if anybody has thoughts either way. We're trying to come up with some ways that we can talk about games
Mhm.
on a deeper
Anywhere
level.
but Spotify.
Yeah, don't comment on Spotify. So yeah, if you have thoughts on that, let me know.
Yeah.
Dylan, what's going on YouTube? I guess kind of just in
Yeah.
general because we don't
Yeah.
know.
So YouTube is where our podcast does live there. It's one of the places it does live. So if you're watching this podcast on YouTube, hi, leave a comment, like, subscribe, etc. Um, but it's also where all of our shorter form content lives. And so we will have shorter, generally like 5 to 15 minute videos where we're, taking a look at like a smaller topic. So, recent ones that we've kind of done have been games that have flown under the radar, or games that, like, if you're looking for something similar to Left 4 Dead, or, previews of games, or shorter, like condensed reviews of games. I think one of the more recent things that we've thrown out there is, you know, cool games with female protagonists. So if you're looking for, like a cool game with a female protagonist, maybe check that list out. We're also trying some new stuff where some of these episodes, like specifically the neighborhood watches, are kind of a nightmare, SEO wise. So we're breaking out some sections of them and posting them kind of on our off weeks, just to kind of see how that does. And so if you are a religious podcast listener and you see a video and you're like, I feel like I've heard this conversation before, you may have. Um, but it'd be cool if you would like go in and like that video or like leave a comment there, just to kind of see how those are doing. But yeah, we're kind of playing around with some stuff on the podcast front. You'll be seeing more posts from us, whether that be if you are into YouTube Shorts or just like more frequent, shorter videos, because some of them are broken out videos from longer episodes. But we still are putting out our short, like YouTube centric videos as well. So take a look at those. There's a bunch of them at this point, so there's probably something that would interest you. So maybe just take a look at it.
Yeah.
Or when I upload these podcasts, I always put like best for user up there at the end as like the recommended ones. So maybe just go to the end of this episode and see what it tells you to watch. So who knows?
And if you're an Epic Games user and you just got Mortal Shell for free, go join the people in the comments who are
letting us know
that it's free on Epic. So,
yep.
Aubrey,
Oh, how nice of them.
on
Yes.
your probably final episode for a minute, what is your closing thoughts?
What would I like to share? I learned a new word recently.
Is it a word
Wifty.
people use?
Wifty?
No, probably not. I heard it in the context of someone using it to describe how their patient behaved overnight. Like it was something in like the notes that they gave at report. They stated that
Wifty.
a patient became wifty.
It's a real
So I looked
word?
it up. It is.
Huh.
And it means like eccentrically confused or like scatterbrained or, you know, kind of like a little bubble-headed kind of. Yeah, I heard it in the context of someone talking about how one of their favorite words or terms to describe a patient is pleasantly confused. We're like, you don't know what's going on, but you're kind of okay with it.
Mm-hmm. You're not like angry.
Yeah, you're not anxious or upset or whatever. You're like, I don't know where I am and I have no idea who the president is, but you know, like things are good here. Like I'm fine. I'm chill. My personal favorite is when I had a patient of mine described by the hospital as unpleasantly confused. Because she would call you everything but a child of God.
That'll be me when I'm old.
So yeah. Yeah, probably.
I feel like I can integrate Wifty into my like daily usage. I feel like I know a lot of people that I could apply that to.
Yeah, it's not like a harsh way to describe someone. It's like, oh yeah, they're kind of wifty, but it's also like probably not a positive thing to be described as.
I feel like it's
Not reliable.
Kind of in line with the like bless your heart, or it's not mean like necessarily, but if you're calling somebody that, it's not
insulting you,
Yeah.
but it's not a good thing for me to be saying that. Like
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Well,
Wifty.
very interesting. We all learned something, so hopefully you, the listener, appreciated that. That is all we've got for this episode. Thank you so much for watching or listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. Remember to stay friendly, gamers.